people have said to us, well, why have black trail runners community? Why are you trying to be divisive? And it's like, we're not trying to be divisive. What we want to work for is to not have to have a black trail runners, because there's no need for it, because there is equality, because there is diversity.
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, Tina Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 216 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today, and I am happy you are here. If this is the first time you are listening, welcome to the show. I hope you get to know me, and I hope you get to know our community. We have a wonderful Superstars community over on Facebook that you can go check out, or you can just email me, tina@tinamuir.com. I love to get to know you. I also love connecting on social media channels. You can find me at Tina Muir for most places, and Instagram Tina Muir88. So I'd love to get to know you. Now, I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today, but before I get to that, I just want to tell you about, we had another World's Toughest Race Eco Challenge Fiji episode with Emma Roca on Monday, who was one of the Spanish athletes from Team Summit. Emma, I described her as who I want to be when I grow up. She is just a one-of-a-kind human being. Absolutely amazing. And if you didn't listen to that episode, be sure to go check it out. She was just spectacular and such an inspiration in so many ways. So make sure you go back and check that one out. And a week ago today, we had Darren O'Lean on the show, who was the co-host of the Netflix #1 show, Down to Earth. We were incredibly lucky to have Darren on the show. I do not know how I actually got him to go through with it and come on my podcast with how his popularity has exploded since that show came out. If you haven't watched Down to Earth yet on Netflix, go watch it and then listen to that episode with Darren. Now, today, I am excited to introduce you to Sabrina Pace-Humphries, also known as Sab. She is one of the co-founders of Black Trail Runners, whose mission is to increase the inclusion, participation, and representation of Black people in trail running. She was recently on the cover of Runner's World UK. We're going to talk about that and just what it feels like to know that you are on the cover of Runner's World. It's kind of the dream, isn't it? And so you're really going to get to know and love Sab. She's also going to make you think in a way you haven't thought about before. She is a 42-year-old mother of 4 children and a grandmother to 2 little boys. Didn't start running until after the birth of her 4th child. She has such a great story, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you think about this episode, because she is just a very special person. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our sponsor, Momentous, and then we'll be right to the episode with Sabrina Pace-Humphries. Thank you to Momentous for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast and for being a source for me to get in some of the recovery aspects that I need into my diet that I have not been the best at. So I really want to tell you a little bit more about Momentous Collagen. So Momentous Collagen Peptides, this is this premium collagen supplement optimized for highly active individuals. The formula consists of 10 grams of high quality grass-fed collagen peptides. It's further optimized by an additional 5.2 grams of Fortigel and 50 milligrams vitamin C per serving. So Fortigel is this clinically researched collagen peptide formula that was designed and tested to promote collagen synthesis in tendons and ligaments. Very important for running. Vitamin C is that necessary cofactor in collagen synthesis, and the consumption of vitamin C alongside collagen peptides has been shown to increase the effectiveness of collagen supplements. You can use Momentous Collagen Peptides for long-term joint health, resilience against injury, and faster return from just stressing your body out from running. And especially this time we're living through right now, it is a stressful time. There is a lot going on. We are not maybe paying attention to our diets the way we usually would. And I don't know about you, but I am definitely slacking on the diet a little bit with what's going on during this exact week we are in right now. The most popular ways to use it are in a smoothie, which is actually how I have it. I just put 1 scoop into my smoothie. It is totally flavorless. I know all collagen products say they are unflavored, but Oh, there's been so many that I have tried that I can definitely taste that flavoring, and it's just not nice. So I can attest that Momentous Collagen peptides are totally unflavored. They go into a smoothie really nicely. There are actually a lot of people who love to put collagen into coffee as a way to have it every morning. I have not tried that yet. I'm not really drinking very much coffee while I'm still nursing, but I will look forward to trying that in the future. And collagen is just... I really have felt a big difference in the way that my body has been able to recover. A lot of you have seen I've been kind of trying different things within my running and doing track workouts and doing trails and doing half marathons on the roads, and my ability to recover has been pretty good. And I think a lot of that is because I am using these collagen peptides. They do help with joint health, which is very important for us as runners. So particularly if you are someone who struggles with tendon and ligament issues, this is going to be huge for you. Now, my friends, as a Running for Real listener, you can get 20% off your first order by using code TINA at livemomentous.com. That's 20% off using code TINA at livemomentous.com. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. I trust that you are going to be able to enjoy it as much as I have and throw it into your smoothies, or you could drink it in any other liquid that you want to have. And yeah, I look forward to hearing how you get on. So check it out, livemomentous.com, use code TINA. Sab, thank you so much for joining me today on the Running for Real podcast. I am really excited you are here and just happy that stars aligned and things worked out that I could bring you on, and this is just perfect timing. So welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm such a massive fan. It's kind of, if I get a little bit tongue-tied, it'll be because I'm talking to you, because I've just listened to podcasts for a good couple of years, and you're kind of like my long run buddy. Aww. Although you don't know it. You're probably loads of people's long run buddy, but yeah, well, really
honoured that you say that.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. And I'm glad you do listen, because there's so many podcasts nowadays that I appreciate every single person who is listening to this right now. I know you have 47 different options of running podcasts you could listen to. So thank you for being here. So for those people who do not know about you, we're going to go into your story a lot. I think so much of this is going to resonate with people because of the way your journey started, because of what you've been through, because of how much you've improved and changed and grown as a person. But recently, I want to start kind of in the middle of, I'd say in the middle of your story, because it's very easy. You will hear this statement of, when we get in the comparison trap, we compare our middle with someone else's end. And you are very much in the middle of where your kind of story is going to take you in terms of your running journey. I can tell that. But one of the exciting things that happened for you recently was you were on the cover of Runner's World UK. How does that feel, me saying that?
Oh my God, Tina, I can't tell you how far away from my perception of reality seeing myself on the cover of, it was the first magazine I ever purchased as a new runner, because
I imagine most people,
yeah. And it's just so strange. I keep going into, my local supermarket and I don't know, I kind of keep going there thinking, oh, there's just going to be loads of copies, or there'll be copies like on the like, and there's like one or two left. And I'm like, who is buying this magazine? And I know locally it's people that know me. I know that people are going around and buying up copies, but I can't tell you how bizarre yet proud yet really emotional about it I am. And the picture itself is, I'm not smiling. I'm known for, I like to take a positive outlook, because I suffer with depression and anxiety. And I found that, trying to take more of a positive attitude is really, really important. But it's still, I kind of still keep thinking to myself, did Andy get it wrong? Like, did he think he was putting somebody else on the cover? And yeah, Tina, I can't explain how weird it is seeing myself on there.
I can imagine. And I just want to add, my mum is one of the people who got one copy, because I was like, you better go buy this. Like, same thing as Alicia Montano being the cover of the US one recently. Yeah. I went and I haven't bought Runner's World in a long time in either country. So I was like, Mum, you need to buy this one, and I'm going to buy this one, so that at least we're doing a little bit to show Runner's World this is important. But on that note, I didn't mean to get into this early in the episode.
you said Runner's World was the first copy of a magazine you picked up. Now, we have heard discussions with primarily Alicia in her Runner's World article saying that, you know, she didn't see people like her in the magazine. Now, you as a brand new runner, when you started running at age, so it would have been 32, 31?
Yeah, 31.
Oh,
31.
Look at my math. I'm so proud.
I know, you're so good.
I'm not. My math is not my strong suit, but I'm proud of myself for figuring that out. So as someone who wasn't, a runner from childhood, when you picked up that magazine, do you remember having conscious thoughts of no one looks like me in this magazine? Or was that just you'd become so accustomed to all kinds of media not showing people that look like you? Did you have any conscious thought when you got it?
It was the latter that you just said. My first thought, which would be my first thought now, being so much more aware of the lack of diversity of Black people and brown people in media. But my first thought wasn't that, because I'd become so accustomed to not seeing people that look like me from as young as I can remember to that day 11 years ago when I picked up that copy of Runner's World, that it's just the norm. It was my normal not to see Black or brown women in magazines that I read, or in women's magazines such as Cosmo or whatever it was I was Red magazine, or, you know, whatever magazines I was consuming back in the day. I'd grown up not seeing that. So therefore, no, my first thought wasn't where are the Black women or whether are the Black men. My first thought was, can this magazine give me some tips about how to breathe while I'm running, or what trainers do I need? Because I'd grown up in a small rural English town where there were no Black people. So that was my life. I wasn't in an urban environment. You know, we talk about urban environments and Black people being associated with urban environments, but I live in the Cotswolds in England, and anyone that, you know, it's a massively white middle class area, and I am not a white middle class woman, and certainly wasn't a white middle class girl. You know, we were kind of low working class, and you know, could barely afford to eat. So no, picking up that copy of Runner's World, it was certainly the kind of subconscious, well, this is my life. I'm not used to seeing Black and brown people anyway, so this is no different to me.
Yeah. And okay, two things I want to say. One, for any Americans, the Cotswolds was where the movie The Holiday, that's where that was set. So whatever the British woman.
It was Kate Winslet, wasn't it, in The Holiday? And her name in it, I want to say Rose, but she didn't. She played Rose in Titanic. I don't remember her character.
Okay, so but it's whoever Kate Winslet played, that where her little cottage, that is where Sab is talking about. That's what we're talking about here. So and I guess even in the little bits they showed in there, you didn't see anyone of color. There was all white middle class people. Even the job she had, very white middle class. So okay, so there's that for anyone who's being like, what does the Cotswolds mean? That is the Cotswolds there. And number two, so we're learning now, I'm learning now as a white person, many people listening, that conversations about race have been going on the whole time. So if you didn't have that conscious thought, when did you have that thought about media? Was it this year when things started to kind of really get going, or was it a few years ago? When did you notice that consciously?
I think I noticed it more consciously when I started to train for the Marathon des Sables. Okay. And I can remember really consciously thinking about it. I went to the expo in London. So that would have been 2017. And I can remember walking into the room, and I'm really, no matter what, I'm quite shy. I was very, very shy child, and it was for a lot of reasons. A big reason was the fact that I wanted to remain very small so that I wouldn't be a target for racists. And
you remember that being a conscious thought?
That when I walked into the Marathon des Sables Expo, I looked around. There was a room where there was tea and coffee, and there were no Black people, and that I think was one of the biggest wake up call isn't the right, but moments of realization that there really aren't people that are like me in this world. And I felt very, very other, and I felt very conscious of my skin color, my hair. I felt very conscious that I wasn't like them. And so therefore just kind of stood on the edge, and no one came up to introduce themselves to me. And I can remember feeling just really out of my comfort zone and just wanting to get to one of the talks that they had on, just so I could kind of lose myself in the background. And all of the literature, I can remember looking around when I was going to like the little expo bit of the MDS, of the show, and all of the advertising, all of the models, all of the people that were selling kit, they were all white. There were no black people. And I can remember just coming out of there and getting the train back home and just thinking, God, it's another situation that I'm putting myself in where I don't feel that I can share this with another people who has the same thoughts and feelings about being in situations where I'm going to put myself in training that aren't necessarily places that I would go as a kind of, single female black woman. And I'm going to be doing this, and I can't share that experience with anyone else that looks like me because I haven't seen anyone else that looks like me. And I think being a mother as well, as I've got older over the years, it has really, because my children are mixed race too. So therefore I have become aware that I need to represent, and I need to use my power, my voice to ask those really, really difficult questions, because I don't want my children to grow up and to pick up a magazine or to go online to a website and all they see is white people. They don't see people that look like them, or they don't see people that look like their family either. So I think it started at the MDS. So it started really my conscious kind of decision that I needed to explore this world and find out if it's just me that can't see them or if it really is a problem. And also as a mother, from a social justice point of view, from a motherly justice point of view, that I wanted to do something that kind of, would make them proud of me, but also to not have them ask the questions themselves. Where are the people that look like my family?
Yes. Okay. So there's two things I want to ask you based on what you were saying there. One is for someone listening who thinks, okay, you take a brochure and it's got marathon pictures in it. There was no conscious thought that thought, you know what, I'm going to leave out black people. I wasn't, well, not I, because it's unlikely that person's listening, but someone, maybe someone who does make brochures for their company, and they think, well, I'm not consciously doing it. I'm just grabbing the photos I see. Now that relates to something else you've been saying, which is you believe you cannot be what you cannot see. So for black people in trail running, which is where you're passionate, but just black people in general in media, if you don't see it, then you can't, how are more people supposed to participate? So what would you say to that person who's thinking, well, but it wasn't a conscious choice. I didn't mean to do that. It just was what pictures I had available. Is that proving your point?
I would say that it has to begin internally in terms of even before you were making those decisions about which pictures to choose. I think there's a decision which is look around you, look at the people that you work with, look at your colleagues. Are there people of color that can inform the decision making before those shots that you're picking up even get taken? Because if you don't have black and brown people within your team or as external freelancers or as members of your board, you're always going to be at a disadvantage in terms of that equality. So a lot of the people that come to us in terms of we want to learn more, we say the work has to start internally first. And that's an internal as an individual, but also as a company or an organization or an association. Yes, and a lot of the work I've done around this, no one wants to be that person that is deemed as bad. And that's not what we're saying. It's not about being good or bad, but it is about looking at the process behind the decisions that are being taken, especially, if you're a marketing director and you look around at your team and there are no black or brown people, That needs to be addressed, because no matter what good place you come from, you cannot understand the lived experiences of Black and brown people. So you're coming from a real disadvantage point if you're not doing the work internally within your organization to level that out. And that is about paying Black people for their expertise, paying back Black people for content, paying Black people for photography, it's about looking around and asking yourself the question, how can we level up in terms of getting that diversity in-house so that the decisions we make going out to our customer base come from a place of informed education rather than, oh, I didn't know that I wasn't doing it, or I didn't know that I was doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for explaining. And I think that helps to, like you said, take it back a step, rather than just being like, oh, and that's the same with moving forward, rather than just saying, oh, okay, well, there's all white people in these pictures, so I need to change a few of these out and then I'm done. Check. I had that exact conversation with I'm not going to name the association, but an association this morning that contacted me and were basically setting up their Instagram profile and basically said, oh, can you send us photos? Basically what they're asking for, can you send us photos of Black people? And it's like, we need to, and we said, and I said to them, you need to go back a step. You haven't reached out to us yet to even try and understand why we are fighting for the more inclusion of Black people in trail running. So we need to have that conversation first so that we can understand what you know or what you've been doing as an association that prides itself on inclusivity, so that we can then really talk to you about what we believe are the issues. And then further steps down the line, we can talk about how we work together in order to get Black people out on trails so that you, as an association working with us, can get the kind of content that you want. So it's the work. Every day it's the work. Yes, thank you. And one more thing I want to clarify here, just while we're on this, pull this thread a little bit more. For someone who, particularly you've mentioned trail running a few times, we haven't gone into what you do in terms of trail running. But for someone listening who thinks, okay, but when I look at trail running, it's mostly bearded white guys, and I'm not a bearded white guy, so it doesn't appeal to me. So why does everyone else need their specific group addressed when it really only and that's true. Most people think of trail running as a bearded white man.
Yeah. It's a 40 to 60-year-old middle class white sport.
Yes.
Yeah, if you've got a beard, all the better.
So if someone listening is thinking, well, I'm a blonde woman, or I'm a whatever. Like, I have glasses and I don't ever see anyone with glasses. Like, if someone's thinking, well, I don't fit into that group either, so why do you need to have representation when hardly anyone has it?
I think that it's a really, really important question. I think from a female point of view, I think that the industry and the sports running in general has been very, very aware as to the lack of parity between male and female over the years, and therefore budget, policy, work has been put in order to increase female participation in running.
Yep.
We have seen data from events such as London Marathon, various trail running events, etc., that have absolutely over the past couple of years really worked in order to increase let's talk about females and talk about female inclusivity in running. And the data shows that it hasn't gone up by 50%, but certainly the percentage of participation numbers in females has gone up. Now, what we're saying is, in terms of the barriers, the reason that we are fighting for, or we are campaigning and creating a community for Black trail runners, is because that hasn't been addressed at all. It hasn't been addressed at all for various reasons. And it does stem back to trail running happens on trails. Trails are normally in the countryside, in the English countryside. And as I'm experiencing from talking to people across the world, is not seen as a safe place for Black people.
Yep, I would agree. Same thing.
Yeah, it's not seen as a safe place for Black people. With the years and years and years, especially in the English countryside of colonialism, I was talking to a co-founder of Black Trail Runners the other day, and the South Downs Way, which is this massive trail in the UK. We run over it, we do races over it, but actually it's owned by 12 people. South Down is owned by 12 people. Wow. So if you're a Black person out in the countryside, then you're more likely to be questioned, or you're more likely to be targeted than you are if you're a white person out in the countryside, because of the color of your skin. Now, if you're a white blonde runner or a white male guy with glasses and a beard out in the countryside, you're less likely to be targeted or to be seen as a threat.
Yes.
So therefore, it's the privilege that is afforded to you because of the color of your skin. That's the reason that we have looked at trail running as a sport that I adore, but actually, running in general, because I've experienced racism on road races, overt name-calling racism, and trail running for me as a Black female has been a gateway in order to help me to manage my mental health.
Yes.
And I do not believe that the lack of diversity in trail running has been given enough amplification, has been given enough funding, has been given enough policy change in order to enable other Black people to trail run. So I think that that's why we're set up. If you look on various forums on Facebook, various forums that are just web forums, the issue of equality in running races, road races, trail races is something that getting involved in that conversation as a Black person isn't a great place to be, because you're constantly hit with the lines such as, but running is an inclusive sport. All you need is a pair of trainers. Running doesn't see color. It doesn't. And as a person of color, I'm telling you right now that running isn't as inclusive as it is made out to be. And actually, especially if you want to do a bit better at running, whether it's on the road or whether it's on the trail, it is about so much more than a pair of trainers. So, if we're looking at access, skills and representation from an access point of view, the fact that the countryside is not deemed as a safe place for Black people to be is something that we're working on in terms of working to create a community where we have strength in numbers going out. So therefore, if you have a group of 4 or 5 Black runners that are going out together, that can be seen as maybe a little bit less threatening than just, so there are this kind of like the 3 areas that we're working on, which is access, skills and representation. But I think that people have said to us, well, why have Black trail runners community? Why are you trying to be divisive? And it's like, we're not trying to be divisive. What we want to work for is to not have to have a Black trail runners because there's no need for it, because there is equality, because there is diversity. Until we believe there is, we will have Black trail runners.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that, because I don't think we've covered that in the show so far, of the aspect of just why these are needed. And like you said, people do see it as you're dividing it. You're making the difference more known. But it's the whole Black Lives Matter thing, isn't it?
We wouldn't be fighting for Black Lives Matter if the line which we're hit by time and time again by those that want to quieten our voices and want to hold us down, if the whole all lives matter wasn't used as something to beat us with, we wouldn't need to say Black Lives Matter, because our lives would matter. And it's the same in terms of the Black trail runners. We don't want to have to do this, but we need to create, firstly, a really safe community where people can share their lived experiences, can connect, can learn from other Black trail runners and other white allies, and not be targeted for that, or our struggle not be being seen as being political, or that this space isn't a space for all that. And I'm referring very much to what, has been in the press about, a well-known race organizer not allowing any conversation around runners and their lived experiences of dealing with racism in ultramarathons. But this isn't political. This isn't about us getting into all that. This is our lives.
Yep.
This is our lives. And to try and put a virtual piece of masking tape or a gag in our mouths to stop us talking about things that we experience when we're out running, you're part of the problem. Yes. Whether you want to believe it or not, you're part of the problem. And you're part of the reason that Black people do not trail run or run.
Thank you to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. You have heard me talking about this brand every week for months on end now, and there is a reason. I am very picky about the brands that I work with, especially when it comes to apparel, because I know we are not able to buy ourselves that many running products. And if we are buying clothes, we need to be able to know that we can trust the brand, not only the quality of their products and that they're going to last a while, that they're not going to shrink and go weird shaped, or you're going to have to wash them all the time because they absolutely stink. Although we will, as we know, always have to wash running clothes. But Tracksmith clothing, you can get away with a few runs before you have to wash them. But all that to say, for me, it is a very important thing to find an apparel brand that I trust and can just believe in and who cares, and they speak out about things. And Tracksmith absolutely does that. They have made it clear that they want to be a part of dismantling systemic racism. They are really doing more than their part there. They have put out a lot of information about why they want to save college track and field, that they fear that is going to be removed or gone in the future. They are doing things about the importance of Black Lives Matter and all kinds of different scenarios of things that we need to be speaking about and talking about, and not even to mention all the programs that they are doing, the fellowships, the amateur support, and the newsletter that they are constantly giving to this running community. Now, beyond that, they are this Boston-based brand led by a group of runners who are committed to making classically stylish, cutting-edge apparel. Tracksmith designs all of their products to solve the kind of problems that we face. And they only work with the finest materials, from merino wool in their training tops to a unique nylon knit sourced from the best Italian mills for their running shorts. All of their garments feature details that let you focus on the things that matter. Now, I've been telling you about the Brighton base layer, which I absolutely love, this soft, lightweight base layer. It is just seamless to prevent any kind of chafing. I've never had any issues with it. It is tight on your arms while it's a bit loose around the core. So as you warm up in your run, you can still get some cooler air coming in to cool you down. I also am a big fan of the session shorts, which is the shorts that they're comfortable. They have a really nice lightweight feel to them. They're lightweight knit. They can handle quite a few wears. They are not too long, but not too short, with a 3 1/4 inch inseam. The shorts feature an exposed elastic waistband that sits very snugly at your waist. These are my favorite shorts that Tracksmith makes. And my friends, you as a Running For Real listener can get $15 off your order of $75 or more by using code TINA15 at checkout at tracksmith.com, or you can go to tinamuir.com/tracksmith and you can see my favorite items. You can click right through without having to search around for it. So go to tinamuir.com/tracksmith. I want to thank Tracksmith and can't wait to hear what you think.
This isn't political. This isn't about us getting into all that. This is our lives. Yep. This is our lives. And to try and put a virtual piece of masking tape or a gag in our mouths to stop us talking about things that we experience when we're out running, you're part of the problem. Yes. Whether you want to believe it or not, you're part of the problem. And you're part of the reason that Black people do not trail run.
Yes. Thank you. Run. Thank you. And that is, by this point that this episode comes out, I think anyone who was a listener of mine who thought that way, that don't get into all that, stick to running, I think that they've already left me. So yeah. I think the people listening right now, you're probably already talking to the people who care, because I've made it pretty clear where I sit on things. And for any listeners who are hearing this for the first time or are kind of still a bit like, what do you mean by safety? Go back to the episode 202 with Alex Will, where she talked about the only time ever feeling safe, truly safe when she was running, not just race, in any kind of running situation, was during the Marine Corps Marathon, where she was surrounded by security. So go listen to that one. If you haven't already, Alex Will, episode 202. Okay. So one more thing I want to ask you about this, and then we will get on to kind of your running background, more of what we've talked about, mental health. And I intended to do it the other way around, but we've gone in the deep end first, and then we'll pull back out. So for you, being someone of mixed race, from the reading that I have done, biracial people often feel even more marginalized in some ways, as sometimes it kind of comes across that you don't belong in either group. You're not Black enough to understand a lot of the things that people with darker skin experience, but you're also not white, so you don't fit in that group either. Can you explain for someone who would never have considered that, how that might be the case?
It's really... I found it very, very difficult in my life. You know, I moved to the town that I live in when I was 2. My father's Black, my mother's white. And from as young as I can remember, I felt odd and was told that I was odd. There were no Black people around me. There were no mixed race people around me. We had one Asian family who one of the girls I became very, very friendly with, but we were the only Black and brown people in Stroud. She used to get racism regarding her race and her culture. And I just never felt, as you said, I never felt that I was Black enough in order to fit in when I used to go to big cities that are near me, like Gloucester, where there was more of a kind of multicultural men and women. And I was not white. So, I mean, I describe myself as mixed race, racialized as Black, because that is what I was growing up, because no one ever said to me, oh, you're so white. You know, it was always the racial overt words, all of the worst words that you could ever use against a Black person. It was always about my hair. It was about the color of my skin. It was about my nose. I was racialized, grew up racialized as Black. So therefore, when I started to understand colorism, and really kind of colorism only came into my sphere of being kind of as a teenager, when I did start to mix more with Black people, and you know, I never felt hatred, but I was certainly made very aware that I was afforded privilege because of my light skin.
Yeah, like you don't understand.
Yeah. That you could never understand what it is to be dark, because you're accepted, you have blue eyes, you have light skin, your hair, although Afro-Caribbean, you can pull it into some kind of decent style. You know, it was, that was so hard, because all I wanted, I don't want to get emotional about it, but all I wanted was, oh God, I am going to get emotional. Yeah. All I wanted was to be accepted. And I didn't feel anyone accepted me. I felt so other. I felt so alone in my being, in my soul, but also in my own family. My sister, although exactly the same as me, mixed race, you would look at my sister and you would not see any color in her. So this genetic gene pool, you know, my sister looks white. She has kind of like my dad's nose, but she would go red in the sun. I'd go darker and darker and darker. My sister doesn't have Afro-Caribbean hair. So it was even in my own family. You know, I grew up in a single parent family. So my mum was white. She's Scottish, so she's actually blue. She's so white. And my sister was white. So I didn't have anyone in my family. My father didn't live with us. We saw him, ad hoc once every couple of months, and it was a flying visit. And my father was fostered, so he was a Dr. Bernardo's child. So my foster grandparents, they were both white. And so I had no one, and I was just looking for someone I could say, is this happening to you too? And I just didn't have that. So therefore, to be hit in my teens by Black people, or by people that I thought, oh, finally, like I could fit in here, that you're not dark enough, or your light skin means that you got that because of your light skin, or it just made the situation, and it made my self-esteem and my self-worth just fall through the floor, because I was like, well, if I'm not Black and I'm not white, who am I? Like, who am I? And that's been something that I've been working through for years, because I think it fed very much into my high anxiety levels, which then led into my depression. And it's something that I did a post on Instagram about imposter syndrome, and that being a massive thing for me when my anxiety is building. I start to get that fear over being found out, and I think now with everything that I'm doing around Black trail runners and amplification of equality and rural racism and everything like that, I am honestly, I'll be honest and say, I get so worried that I'll get an email or a DM saying, how the hell can you talk about this? Like, you're, light skinned, and it my anxiety gets higher just waiting for that. It hasn't come yet, because actually the majority of people have been, certainly, people of color have been really positive about the amplification and the work that we're doing and the work that I'm doing. And all I can say to that is, I use the platforms that I use, or I use my voice in order to talk about these issues for those people that can't. Mm-hmm. Or those people that don't feel safe enough to, or those people that don't have the means of being in front of the right people, in terms of knowing how to play the game. I ran a PR company for 16 years, so therefore I know what I need to do in order to get in a room with change makers. And this is not a kind of self-serving ego trip thing for me. I'm a mum of 4 and grandmother of 2, who has a lived experience of racism, and certainly within the sport that I choose to practice day in, day out, I don't see people that look like me, and I want to change that. And whether I'm light-skinned, dark-skinned, whatever skinned I am, I believe I can help to facilitate that change, and I will to my dying day. It's my mission.
And I want to take a moment to thank you for that. I mean, it has to be exhausting, has to be so much work, has to be a lot of repetition and a heart and emotion going into this. So thank you for all that you are doing. And I think once you start talking about things like this, about thinking about it, you become more inclusive to all groups. So you start thinking about LGBTQ groups, you start thinking about ableism. And so the more people we can switch on to this conversation in any form is going to help all the groups with inclusion. So thank you for your work there. Now, you mentioned there about being a mother of 4, grandmother of 2, and you've already mentioned about having depression, high anxiety. Many women feel that way, particularly after having children, that they've lost themselves. We haven't mentioned this, but you did find, you'd gained quite a bit of weight that's kind of snuck on over the years, realize you have nothing for yourself. Can you tell me about the moment that you decided, I have to change something, I have to get something for me and feel good about myself again?
I think it was after the birth of my 4th child. So she's 11. So it was 11 years ago. And I was just in a real... I just was in just a real dark bout of postnatal depression. And I knew I was depressed because I had been there before, but it had never been that bad, and it had never caused me to consider my own life, and I did not want to be, I just did not feel like myself at all. And most of my days, I can remember early in those 3 months of having Cece, were spent not recognizing my body, not recognizing the thoughts in my mind that, were dark, really dark. The bond with the baby, because I worked for myself, I had to go back to work just a couple of weeks after I had her. My husband was at home. And again, that compounded this bond that I had with her, because I just didn't feel, I felt all I was really a milk monkey. I would kind of siphon off milk in the morning. I would go, he would bring her in to see me. And I could just remember thinking, this is not me. And I do not feel like me. And I went to see the doctor because I just didn't know what else to do. And I thought, I need some help. And I'm not a person that likes asking for help too much. You know, I kind of like to be quite self-sufficient. And he said to me, he said, here's the medication that we can try. And here's, a leaflet for Let's Talk, which in the UK is kind of like our kind of the first point of contact for mental health services for the NHS. And, I must have been talking to him about the weight that I'd put on and that I just, what should I do? And he was like, the best thing that you can do for yourself is just to try and find some form of exercise, even if it's walking. Have you been to the gym before? We can give you this kind of access to gym pass. But I was so ashamed of myself, Tina, because it's like my fourth pregnancy. I felt that I should have learned by then, like not to eat so much and not to use my pregnancy as an excuse just to eat everything and anything. And I'll deal with it after the baby's born, because as you get older, it's harder to lose that weight. It's harder. It's hard. It's just so much harder. Everything is harder. You're more tired. It's harder to lose the weight. You've got other kids that depend on you, so you haven't got the time. And I can remember coming out of there and saying to myself, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm too ashamed. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't like how I look. What can I do? And I hated running. I hated running. I hated it as a kid. And I hated going on the running machine at the gym. When I had gone a couple of years before, I would stay away. I would go on the step machines. And I was like, well, what can I do where the least amount of people can see me? And where I live, we have like a canal towpath. And in the evening, there's not too many people go along there. And so I put on an old pair of Nikes and some tracky bottoms and a really, really baggy T-shirt. And I was like, okay. And it was before the whole Couch to 5K thing. So there wasn't the apps and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I thought I'll just go and I'll try and do a mile. And it was, oh my God, the pain. I can remember even running for 30 seconds, I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my chest. I couldn't breathe. I was sweating. It was so painful. I can remember bending over this kind of fence, and I think a friend must have gone past like in a car and seen me, and he texted me afterwards saying, Sabrina, you just look like, do you need some help? Mm-hmm. It was horrendous, I can remember. But I remember getting home, and as bad as it felt lighter than where I felt lighter in my mind than where I had been, an hour and a half before. I felt that I had done something for me. And it was the first thing that I had really done for me for a very long time. And I thought, well, I'll see how I feel in a couple of days. And I'll see if it hurts too much, I won't bother. But you know what? I woke up the next morning, and just the sense of achievement that I'd had, even from doing that, I just thought, I want to feel that little feeling again. Mm. And that's just what carried me on every day, was like, if I can just run for like 10 seconds more, then that'll be like my win for today. And that's how I built up from like nothing, from hating running to just developing this little love, a tiny little glimmer of love for it, or like it. Mm-hmm. So now what is like a full-blown affair with it,
Yeah. And I think that's how most people listening have kind of found that, running is, I'm thinking just to the editor of my podcast, Jeremy, who was, when I first started working with him, he was not a runner. He's in a band, very musical, very talented, and just, had run in his past, but not really much. And then, slowly said to me one day, I'm gonna try. I think I'm gonna try and run, because he was editing these shows every week, listening to them, mine and a few other shows, and then now he's training seriously for half marathons and having these big dreams of like, one day I'm gonna go for this, and it's just amazing to see how a tiny little glimmer of, I wonder how I would do at this. It can just suddenly take you into this. You're like, oh, I get it. I get what's up with those crazy runner people who wear short shorts and go out in the snow. Like, You know, it's so funny how it hooks people. So
it's so funny. It is so funny. And it's funny because in the last couple of months when I've been talking about my journey and I've thought about that day, and that day is replicated when you go. This is the thing you have to remember. Like when you go to these different distances, 5 to 10K, 10 to half to marathon to ultra marathon territory, I still have those days. Yeah. Like sometimes they're 3 or 4 days, because that's the nature of what happens when you push yourself, when you try and expand the limits of what you believe you're capable of. You know, your heart's beating out your chest, you're sweating, you can't breathe, you're like, I can't do it. And suddenly you're doing it and you're like, wow, you know, it's magical, and it's medicine.
Hi friends, it's that time of the episode to feature our Black-owned business of the week, and I want to feature Trumpaclart, which was recommended by Sabrina herself. It is a place where you can go to support Black Lives Matter. Their Trumpaclart's t-shirts are committed to raising funds for Black Lives Matter and Black grassroots initiatives in the UK. They have t-shirts printed by Matthew James Barker, and there's all kinds of cool things that you can get on their website. You can go support them, you can go purchase some products, you can go donate if you want to donate, and you can find that by going to, it's probably easiest to go to their Instagram, which is Trumpaclart, Trumpaclart, or you can go to trumpaclart.bigcartel.com, which I know that website is a little bit confusing. So that's trumpaclart.bigcartel.com. So I probably recommend going to their Instagram and finding your way through there. But I just wanted to give them a shout out. Sab asked if this could be the Black-owned business that we feature for the week, and I was more than happy to do so. So you can check them out, go get some products, and go support the Black Lives Matter movement.
That's the nature of what happens when you push yourself, when you try and expand the limits of what you believe you're capable of. You know, your heart's beating out your chest, you're sweating, you can't breathe, you're like, I can't do it. And suddenly you're doing it and you're like, wow, you know, it's magical, and it's medicine.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for explaining that. Okay, so for someone listening who is in that stage where maybe they're just starting running, or maybe it's someone they know is just starting running, and they or the person they love is doing what you're doing and hiding. I hear this so often of people saying, I don't want anyone to see me. I don't want people to laugh at me. I don't want people to know I'm doing it. What would you say to the you back then, or to the person listening, or to the person listening who cares about someone who knows they're hiding? What would you say to that person to like show them that you do belong in the club? Or do you think there isn't anything that can be said in that early time?
What would I have wanted said to me? I think that for me then, it was that mental battle of not being, you're not good enough to do this. You're not good enough to do this. You're never going to be, you know, the Lucy who you see running along the road in short shorts. You know, you're never going to be that. Why are you even trying? And I think of it, and this is what I think of, when you're out doing that, you will have those thoughts too. And I think of these two, like the devil and the angel on my shoulder, and I visualize them when I'm running, even to this day. Now, the devil on my shoulder will be the one saying to you, you're not good enough, you can't do it, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're not mentally balanced enough. Every step that you take, and this is what I've done, is like visualize it. Every step that you take, whether you're a run, walk strategy or whatever, imagine taking that devil, putting under your foot and just stepping, just every step, stepping on him to quiet him or her down.
I love
down.
That.
And every time you do it, every moment that foot hits the ground, visualize you pressing that devil down. And I guarantee you, when you get home, that angel on your shoulder is like beaming, because it's another run, another thing that you've done for yourself you never regret. And I always say this, no matter how much, and we're getting to, in the UK, autumn, winter now, I know that you've got listeners around the globe, but we're coming into autumn in the UK now, you know, it's getting darker at night. I'm a real homebody, so I like, you know, the fire on and everything like that. So I'll think of every excuse in the book not to go out and do a training run. I don't want, I'm too tired. But I know when I get back, I will never sit down on my sofa and say, I wish I wouldn't have done that. It's always, I'm so glad I did that. So that's what I would say. Tramp on that devil on the shoulder with every step you take, whether it's a mile, whether it's 2 miles, whether it's 52 miles.
I love that. That's such a good visual as well. I can picture that working really well. Thank you. All right, so let's fast forward. You've mentioned doing Marathon des Sables in 2018. Now, for someone who doesn't know, that's a 6-day race, 251 kilometers, which is, I don't know how many miles.
I think it's about 153 miles or 56 miles, something like that. 150s.
So that's 6 regular marathons in southern Morocco, which is the Sahara Desert. And it's considered the toughest foot race on earth. Now, when you did that, did you take a moment to think about what you just described a few minutes ago? Those first few steps, did you take a few moments during that to think, wow, here I am doing this when I couldn't even go a mile on that first day?
Yeah. Couldn't believe it. Again, it's another one of those times in your life when you're like, the devil was like, what the hell are you doing here? What are you doing here? And then I was like standing on that start line on the first day. They say that just getting to the start line for something like the Marathon des Sables is a massive achievement because so many people get injured in training. Even a couple of days before, a member of my training group got the flu and couldn't go. So like just to be there, and I can remember standing, and there's this photo that I managed to grab. Oh God, I managed to, and I'm sorry, I'm perimenopausal and I just keep forgetting things. The name of the winner of Marathon des Sables, he's like won it quite a few times. I'll remember it in a minute. I'll look it up on my phone. But I went up to him and I said, can I have a picture taken with you? And Rashid El Mabriety, that's it. Okay. So I grabbed him and I said, please can I have a picture? You're just amazing. And I got a picture, and I can remember just standing there and thinking, it's all those little steps, all of those times that have got me here. I am not Superwoman. And I really don't like, I don't, you know, it's this kind of phrase that I've really kind of gone against. Like people are, oh my God, you're Superwoman, you do all this. I'm like, I'm not, I'm really not. And there's just this thing in me that just has to try and challenge the believed perceptions of the person that I am. And with running, you know, when I first joined my own running club, they said I would be more suited to shot put than I would to running. And I was like, no, because I want to run. I don't want to do shot put. And so getting to that Marathon des Sables start line when so many of the field, I mean, the field is it's mostly 40 to 60-year-old middle-aged men, ex-bankers or whatever, people kind of going out there. And so the field is very, very slim with women. So to be a woman on the field, and you can shorten that down again with mothers, and you can shorten that down again with female mothers. Yeah. So I felt really proud to have got to that start line. And when that Highway to Hell started playing, which Patrick Bauer, who is the inventor of the Marathon des Sables, his favorite tune is Highway to Hell. And as it's the countdown to each day starting, this song booms on the speakers all around the start gantry. And just that started, I mean, I had tears in my eyes and I was like, we're doing this. I'm doing this. And it was the best feeling in the world because it was the biggest thing I'd ever done. And a small town, you know, country girl just would never have believed she would be there ever. So
cool. And okay, so you're doing that, or you're doing the 102 mile run, which you did recently, the Cotswold Way. For someone listening who's thinking, yeah, well, you said there that you have something deep inside. So you have some kind of special talent or something in you that makes you special to do this. Or someone else might do it because, well, they're extraordinarily talented. But you've said multiple times that you don't feel like you have anything extraordinary. What would you tell that person who hears you saying about these things and says, well, that's inspiring and all, but I could never do that?
Break it down step by step. And I know this is something that you hear a lot, but when I'm doing those things, I'm not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be out here for 6 days. Mm-hmm. When I did the 102 mile Cotswold Way, I didn't think, oh my God, I'm running. Because if you think about the entirety, that massive thing, I would never do it. Mm-hmm. You would never, so many people I talk to, you would never finish it. You wouldn't even contemplate starting it because it's craziness to even think about that. But I don't. So I'll set myself these challenges, or I'll sign up to Marathon des Sables, or because we've been in this global pandemic, I was like, well, all of my races are cancelled. I've always wanted to do the Cotswold Way in one go. Well, why don't I have a go? And I always had that. So, but I never, when I was doing it, when I started, I didn't think, oh my God, I've got 100 miles to go. It was, okay, cut it down into 10K chunks. I know I can run 10K. So get to 10K, checkpoint. Okay, what more do I need? So it was taking it down and chunking it up bit by bit. And all of those little bits come together so that you get the big thing at the end. And it's something I use in my life and in running. It's if I've got a project that I'm working on, or, when I was running my business, I knew I had a goal of ultimately what I wanted to do, but to think about that massive goal was too much. Mm-hmm. I would get highly anxious, and I wouldn't even start some projects because I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? I don't know.
We all do that, yeah.
You know. So I worked with a coach, and she was like, well, what is it about it that's stopping you even starting? I said, because it's just too much. And she's like, well, what do you do with the kids when they say, Mummy, this dinner it's too big, I can't eat it, which happens all the time. And I'll be like, oh, I'll cut it up into small chunks. Well, why don't you try and eat that bit first? Yeah. So then they'll eat that bit first, and then they'll be like, oh, that was nice. Actually, I really like peas. I'll try this now. So it's kind of that type of analogy, but using it in a running sense. And that's all I do. And you'll hear so many runners that do these massive things. If you ask them, how do you do it? They'll chunk it down bit by bit. I am not extraordinary, but I would say that I am goal orientated, but I understand that the goal has to be smaller goals that will lead to the bigger thing. Mm-hmm. Because if I think too much about it, I'll never start. And I think that's what I see in the women that I run coach, some women's running groups. And, even those women that come to me as non-runners and they want to run 5K, they're like, oh, I don't see how I'm ever going to be able to do it. I'm so slow. I don't have time to train, etc. And I say, look, let's just focus on the hour that you're with me now. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're going to do. This is our warm-up. This is our mobility. And I guarantee you that consistency of you doing that with me and a little bit of homework, which I'm going to send you and break it down, in 10 weeks time, you'll be able to run 5K. And honestly, when they run it, they're like, 10 weeks ago, I can remember saying to you, and I'm like, yeah, but that's the beauty of not thinking about the massive goal, just being in the moment of what you're doing now helps you to get that massive goal.
For sure. Thank you. Great advice. Really, really good there. And I want to just take a moment actually to mention your coach, who is Damien Hall, who is very, very well known in the UK, but maybe not as much here in the US, maybe within the trail and ultra community. Tell us about what it's been like working with Damien.
I started working with Damien, who is one of the most lovely men that you could meet. I started working with him when I decided that I wanted to try mountain running, which is a whole new experience in itself. And I was looking for a coach that really understood how to kind of almost be seen as an underdog, or be an underdog. And actually, he's got a little 15-minute film called Underdog when he did his UTMB run. But I also wanted someone that could really understand that I needed to fit my training in with my life, and that my children are like my number one priority. And I love running, but it has to, if you're going to give me a plan that's like running 7 days a week, twice a day. Like, that's not going to work for me. Like, and you need to work with me. And I wanted a coach that actually, I think, had a family themselves and kind of got that. It was, really understood that. And Damien had coached a friend of mine in a various ultras in the mountains. And I just spoke to him and we just hit it off. He's very gentle. He's very calm. But he's a beast, He really, really is. So he's gone from... And he wouldn't mind me saying this, but he's gone from relative unknown to kind of, as you say, one of the most respected elite ultramarathoners in the UK. But his personality and what he strives for in his running, in his environmental work, in his life is really inspirational to me. And he certainly has been an absolute support to me in terms of not only my running, but, with the rise of the activism work that I'm doing and introducing me to people who it would be good for me to talk to. And it's just is a genuinely good bloke, but doesn't take any messing.
Yeah. I feel like that kind of sums up how he comes across as well. And I will say to listeners, look forward to an episode with Damien coming very soon. As soon as you mentioned the words environmental work, I think people's ears probably perked up. And yes, I have an episode coming with him soon, and I'm looking forward to sharing that. All right. So as much as I have some other questions for you, we're going to have to save them for another time because we are kind of wrapping up here. So tell us where people can find out more about Black Trail Runners and how they can support what you do there, and also your women's only group if people are interested in that, and then your own personal stuff for people who are interested.
So Black Trail Runners, we are on Instagram at Black Trail Runners. Or if you're a black runner, doesn't matter. And we're not saying that you have to run ultramarathons, but if you're a runner and you're a person of colour and you want to be in a community with other people of colour and white allies too, a safe space, and you're on Facebook, you can just search Black Trail Runners and join the private community there. Mm-hmm. We've also got the website blacktrailrunners.com, and that's got information about our latest campaign, which is aimed at race organisers in order to include ethnicity questions in race registrations and other elements of our work. For me, I'm at Sab Runs Miles or Sab Run Smiles, however you want to do it. I always think of it as Smiles. On Instagram. And that's kind of just my personal account, and I share a lot of Black Trail Runner stuff there. But it's kind of just documented life and my journey in running and everything like that. On there I talk about my women's run groups. So there's links in my profile to my kind of run coaching, personal training stuff. Or if you just want to talk to me generally about anything in life, really, I really like to engage. It's so strange to me. But it's so strange for me because people message me and say, you'll probably never read this. And I'm like, I've only got 2,000 followers. I'm not Kim Kardashian. I'm going to read your message and reply to you. So that's kind of the various areas that you can see what we're up to and see what I'm up to.
But if you think about that, you've just shown us an element of imposter syndrome once again, because you said only 2,000 people. Now imagine if you were in a room with 2,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, to people who have 100 followers, that is incredibly intimidating.
See, that's the thing. What I was saying earlier about not thinking about the big thing. So I don't think about it. Every time I'm talking, it's like I'm talking to you now. That's how I look at it. So whenever I do a Instagram video or anything, I don't think about 2,000 followers. I think about I'm just talking to somebody. And that's what I say to people. I say the fact that you've actually messaged me, like I'm always going to respond to you because it's like I'm just talking to you. Yeah. So I don't think about it like that. So it's really weird when people say, oh, you'll probably never read this, because I'm like, actually, I do, because I like to know that I'm actually making a little bit of difference in the world. That's quite nice. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand. Every time someone sends me a message or an email, it's like they've taken time out of their day to thank you for something or to put thought into something or to share something. So I want to thank everyone listening who has ever reached out to me. I appreciate you. And obviously, Sab, if you email her, she will do the same or message her.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. This flew by. I felt totally 100% engaged in our conversation, which I loved. And I appreciate all that you're doing. So for those listeners, go follow Sab, go check her out. If you are in the UK, well, that issue's probably gone by now, but you could, I don't know if you can backlog request it.
You can, yeah, you can backlog request it, or just, get in touch with me. I've got about 100 copies on my diary. Or you could send a message. Yeah, there you go. Or you could send a message to Runners World and say, I appreciated you doing that. More of it coming, please. Absolutely. Yes, please.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Tina. Thanks so much.
My friends, if you have a minute and you could leave a review on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or whatever else podcast player you use to listen to this podcast, or if you would subscribe to this podcast, you will help me get out in front of new runners to make our tribe even bigger and even better. It might not seem like you as one person can make a difference, but really it helps a lot. And it shows me you appreciate the hard work I put in for those. Thank you so much. Before we end this episode, I just want to take a moment to shout out my podcast editor, Jeremy Nessel, who has done such a wonderful job of looking after my podcast, taking out all the mishaps in the episodes, while still keeping in the vulnerability and the realness and the rawness of the conversation. This is not one of those podcasts where I take out the ums and the ers and the sometimes the delay in words, because I think it's very important to keep that authenticity. We're surrounded by perfected and manicured everything, and I think it's really important that Running for Real stays that way. So thank you to Jeremy for your work. I also want to thank Maria Vargas and Amber Moore, who are also part of my team. They've been a big part of this community and me being able to build this brand. So just want to give them a shout out too. All right, let's get right back to the end of this episode. Isn't she wonderful? I just love that woman. I'm really excited for her future and what she continues to do. Just such an inspiration and just a great story. I really do appreciate her. So you can find links to everything we talked about today in the show notes by going to tinamuir.com/episode 216. That's where you can get links to find out more about Sab. You can also go get yourself some Momentous Collagen peptides or the Elite Sleep if you're struggling with sleep, or you can get some creatine, which is also going to help you with performance if your races are starting to come back. You can also go check out Tracksmith. You can get $15 off your purchase of $75 or more by using code TINA15 at tracksmith.com, or you can go to tinamuir.com/tracksmith, tinamuir.com/tracksmith to check out my favorites and get links directly to those products, which makes it nice and easy for you. And finally, I just want to highlight our Black owned business of the week, which is Trumpaclart, which is a business that Sabrina recommended herself. I wanted to ask her which businesses she recommended, and that was what she said. So go get yourself some Trumpaclart gear if you want to support this Black-owned business of the week. Now, next week, I will be excited to introduce you to the one and only Rich Roll. Yes, Rich Roll is going to be on the show next Friday. So if you've not already subscribed to this podcast, go do it. We also have another episode on Monday with Travis and Mark Macy. That's another episode from our World's Toughest Race Eco Challenge series. Mace has Alzheimer's. He completed the World's Toughest Race with Alzheimer's and with his son Travis. Just the most heart-wrenching but inspiring and powerful story. You are not going to want to miss this one. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on Monday.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.